Yeah, okay. We may as well start then since we have a forum.
Andrew's on the line.
Andrew's
I see that, yes.
Oh,
This is the Community
Hey, Paul.
Preservation Committee from July 28th. And just a reminder that public meetings are recorded. By joining us online, you agree to have your likeness and audio recorded. So we have a quorum. Andrew is online, so we can get started with some of the easy stuff. I just had a couple of pieces of, news mail. I have no mail. Member input. I did talk to Stuart Saginaw. I had talked to Linda about this, but we always had a question on whether we could use funds voted in at town meeting immediately, or if we had to wait till the fiscal year begun. Like Linda with the historical consultant for 12 Robinson, she wondered if she could start work now and have invoices come in. And Stuart said, as long as you say, as long as your warrant is worded such that the funds are coming from the historical resources reserve, you're okay to use them right away. It's if you voting in your 1% surcharge and those funds are to be used in a project that you have to wait till the first of the fiscal year.
so I think we should confirm that in our town because I had an email chain with some people, and Brian thought that we had to wait till July
Oh, okay.
1st. So it's kind of a moot point because this project is not going to end up starting before next week anyway, but for the future, it would be really good to know.
Yeah, because we've asked this question many times, so. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that if it's from the historic reserve, that's what you've already bought in, but of course, Stuart called me, so I don't have that in writing, but maybe we can get that. The other thing that Stuart said, which I found interesting, was for us not to be surprised if the blended fund program goes away. Littleton is only one of the few towns that have adopted the blended fund model and have used it. So he said that they may revoke the program because it's a kind of a administrative nightmare to have it for a couple of different towns. He also said that it might take a long time because it's got to go through the legislature and all that. So we have some time, but we can't count on that for the future, possibly.
Interesting.
Yeah, so those were my two pieces. Does anyone else have any interesting?
So it sounds like other towns aren't interested or aren't willing to rustle around and dig up free cash. Free funds.
Yeah. Especially if you're a big city like Boston, I mean, to make up that 2%, because they're a 1% community, they could never do it.
Yeah, and I think also it's just it's an administrative challenge because you don't know anywhere in the budget, like until the end of the year, you don't know what that number is. It's difficult to do. I don't know how, if you over collect, if you have things that I don't know, I don't know how you wait, you get to the end of the year and you have to shuffle a bunch of money around. I'm sure that it's challenging. Do you want to let Anna in there?
Oh, I thought I hit the button.
Well, we'll use it as long as we can.
Oh,
And we lost Andrew.
well, that's possible. Hi, Anna. Hi, Anna. Oh. Sorry, Anna, my aim must have been off. I hit the button, but
Mute.
doesn't look like it doesn't look like you're hooked up to audio, Anna.
Oh,
Oh, I'm back.
Okay.
you have Anna?
We have her visually,
Is there a
but
way to somehow
Oh.
send her a message?
I think she sees
I'll
us.
figure it out.
Yeah, I see her plugging in. Can you hear us, Anna?
There we go.
Oh. Oh. So yes, Sam, I think that's it, it's hard to find extra cash sitting around as we are finding.
Yes. Hit or miss.
Yes. Solomon, did you have?
Yeah.
All right. The next thing on the list was the committee reorganization, but I think I'd rather have, unless.
A fuller committee.
Full committee,
Sure.
or I don't know if it matters. Well, we have two people on board. Unless. Mitt, I don't know if he wants to be clerk again. But I think now that we record our meetings, we should be able to do the minutes a little easier,
Right, but someone has to do it.
but someone has to do it. But that's, or we could pay for someone.
Mm.
We had talked about that before too.
I think also there are other. Well, I know like Park and Rec has not done our reorganization.
Yeah,
FinCom, I don't believe has done their reorganization, so.
I don't think for us it matters.
So we're made up of other appointed or elected members. We should have waited at least until everybody is
Yeah,
resettled.
Good point.
all right, yeah, why don't we do that?
like waiting.
Yeah, I would agree. This is Anna. Hi, everyone.
I hear you.
I would agree about the reorganization. Jeff Yates is going to actually be the liaison now from the planning board, and he'll be starting in July.
Okay. We're sorry to lose you, Anna.
Yeah.
I'm sure Jeff.
Well, I'm sorry too. This has been such a wonderful, wonderful learning experience. I appreciate all of your patience with me as I've learned all about CPC and the wonderful things that are done with the dollars.
Well,
Okay.
you know where we are. We know where you are. We have questions.
We'll find
Don't be a stranger. How's that?
Right, there you go. All right, so we'll put the committee reorg off till next month. That's fine. Applications for funding, which I of course left on my table, but
have it on.
Alicia, yeah,
You want that?
that's fine. I read.
Hey, Mitt.
Just in time for the good stuff.
Yeah,
Running late.
that's all right.
We've already appointed you to all the footnotes.
Good sharing that, Matt.
All right.
I
Love that. That's awesome. Appreciate it.
thank you.
So we have Alicia Dick from Park and Rec with us for a couple of projects, if you want to just kind of go over.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this okay here, or do you want me to be at the podium or whatever?
Yeah, why don't you come up here, because I know
Yeah.
we're
Recording it so people can
recording
see.
this way, yes.
Hi, I'll gladly sit next to you.
Yeah, sit close.
Good, how are you?
Good. All right. Well, thank you all for having me here. I really appreciate it. We have two different requests coming in. One of them, I guess I'll start with the tennis courts, just because that's a very common one that a lot of folks know about. So, originally we had come to, the town to look at doing a project over at Cooper Farm. And then that was rejected. So then we kind of started the wheel over again, working with the school department to figure out a more cost-effective way to be able to get these tennis courts installed. So the main issue for folks that may not know, the two tennis courts that we have over at Town Hall, which is actually here.
Right, but
Over there. So that's going to be the site for the new senior center. So those tennis courts will be demolished, which then puts the town down to only having two tennis courts. There was a property near the high school that had put in a tennis court as a contract agreement, I believe. But the how do I say it nicely? They're not the safest courts to be able to use. There's sewer caps and things like that that are actually on the court itself. I know
Oh,
So the athletic director really does not want the kids to play out there because, you know, one trip on something like that. And so they're not really usable. So with that, that would bring the town down to, you know, 2 less tennis courts than we had. And this was something that the select board had said that they really do want to, you know, be able to replace these courts that are going to be taken away with the creation of the senior center. So that's kind of like the base information. I don't know, do you want me to go into more of that, or do you have any questions or at this time?
So
We'll see.
this is in unison or agreement with the school department,
Yeah,
which was a little bit of a point last time, which didn't get worked correctly, but you're in unison with because you're in unison with the school department for these location and use wise.
yeah. I'm not sure, what do you mean it didn't,
Well, we get up to the point where we're going right to voting on it and then it got
I know,
pulled.
yeah.
But I mean, this does seem like a complete location, put 4 tennis courts in, but the high school and the towns and Park and Rec can use them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after, we have worked with the, business manager, Steve Marks, to be able to figure out, what it should look like, what we wanted to do. The, group that we had used previously, Places Inc., they had some money left over in the, original request for the design. So they kind of put together, this, what do you want to say, estimate of the cost and just sort of fixing the photo a little bit, just to add some more detailed information that needed to be on there from like an architectural standpoint. So yeah, we've talked with the schools, we've looked at design together. The athletic director is very supportive of it. It's something that would help our department a lot. And it is truly needed because if you see, I mean, not now because it's raining, but every night we have meetings, there's always people that are out there still on these courts that are playing. So, you know, it is an amenity that I know the public very much uses. So we should replace that.
who's gonna own them? Is it gonna be the school department or is it
Yeah.
gonna be your department?
We don't know, so that's a piece that we have to figure out. We've talked about a couple of different things because ultimately what it comes down to, right, is long-term maintenance, you know?
Yeah.
So, what we potentially could do is, sort of similar to what we've done over here, where you kind of block that parcel out. So then it can become town land, so it's both, everybody's, you know? So that is something that, you know, we have talked about, but haven't made any like specific, choice to move that direction or not.
I have a few questions.
Let's go. Give them to me.
So the school department will not be contributing any funds to this project?
That is an excellent question. It is not in their budget for this past year. So, at this time, no.
Okay. Then when I looked at your graphic, it looks like, you know, one of the things it says is that there's a paved access drive
Yeah.
connecting the high school to the new facility. Looks like it will start on New Estate Road. Is
No.
this New Estate
It's
Road?
not.
Oh, it's not?
It's not. That's the high school exit.
This is onto King Street, but this says this says King Street. So what's this?
So this is,
Two-way?
no,
No.
so this is the high school, physically the high school is right here. So they have an
But this
exit.
says high school.
Well,
That's
that's
not
the
right.
where they dropped the.
Oh,
pin
okay,
on
all
the
right.
map.
So go ahead. High school's there.
Yeah, so this is that place where everybody comes in and out of the high
The
school.
main drive to the high
Yep,
school.
With the
and
traffic light.
with the traffic light, and that's
So that's
the big
traffic light?
piece. That's the traffic light, yeah.
I see. Okay.
So this picture that you see in here really what we're looking at is just the tennis courts and trying to redo this, section of the parking lot. I don't realistically having conversation with, Steve Yonley, who's the Highway Department Director, or sorry, Department of Public Works. He's not sure that that would actually be able to be covered in that grant. In this estimate. And the pickleball courts, that was something that was suggested to go along with a renovation of, so this is 36 King or the old Indian Hill property. So, and that's one of the beautiful pieces about it, since we just purchased that property as a town. Now you have these courts where, you know, before, one of the big detours about having the courts, on the actual high school is that a lot of people would feel uncomfortable using them during the day while school's in session. So then this way, you know, they would have a place to be able to park, that would be town property and use those. So, yeah. So if we could be able to get a road in there, that'd be great, but I don't think realistically we're gonna be able to do that with the amounts. We really just need to get the tennis courts taken care of.
And the pickleball courts are not part of
It's
this
not.
proposal. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I have three specific questions on the
Okay.
quote.
Yeah. No, I love this. I hope I can answer your question on this one. We'll see.
So, number 7, I just kind of looked at some of the bigger ticket items one of them was number 7. Which is spread loam for $25,000. Just, I mean, it's not that I know about these things, but that seems like a lot of money to spread loam.
Yeah, and this is one of the crazy things right now, doing any project, the costs are just astronomical. And it's really unfortunate that that's the reality of where we're at the moment. He did in this put a, I can't remember what it was. It's a 10% contingency on here and a 5% adjustment. So the full amount of it's, you know, rounded up to $734,000. Realistically, especially if the highway department is able to help do some of this work, we won't get near that price at all. So that's the ultimate hope, is that we're going to try to keep this as low as we possibly can to be able to get it done. Yeah. So something like that, that's an estimate that he has. And I'm looking at this now and I'm thinking the reason that it's that expensive is he has Hydrazine on here. And that is a very expensive product to have, you know, they come out and they blow it. And so, yeah.
And this is also a budgetary estimate, not a
Correct.
full-blown design quote.
Correct.
So there will be once we get through this and have a path forward, then we will have a full design and
100%. Yeah.
an actual quote, not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And who's gonna run that? You guys run that, or?
We have been, so that's something we've had, I don't want to say we're trying to do it, but we really haven't, but it needs to be done. So that's something that, yeah, we'll take on that project. And you know, obviously we would want to work with PMBC and all of that stuff to get it done, but yeah.
I just had a couple of other specific questions. Number 9B, permitting, $10,000. I'm just wondering, since this is going to be a town project, can permitting be waived? I don't know.
That's a great question, and I will find out, because I love that question. I hope the answer is yes. Do you want to go back?
No, that doesn't work here.
Thank you. All right, I'll take it.
Or remove the money from one bucket to another bucket.
Yeah, it's basically
Right.
what you do.
That's what happens.
But we might have to do that.
Yeah.
Should get a
Spreading loom is something that Boy Scouts could do.
There you go.
Yeah.
Great. I know. Yeah.
And then the last question I had was 9D, construction support. I mean, the section before that was construction, I believe. And now we have $10,000 in addition for whatever construction support means. For the design, it looks like it's
yeah.
construction support for the design. Not sure, I don't know what it
I'm
means.
not sure. I mean, so it has on here, so section 9 says engineering, permitting, bidding, and construction services. So I really honestly don't know what that is, and I can follow up with places to see if we can get a little bit more
Yeah,
information.
because I thought that the page before it had, I'm not sure, had construction stuff on it. Let's see.
Yeah, there's a construction of the court.
Right.
So there's specific materials that we would need to use for that.
Right, so the construction of the courts is $53,000 and tennis courts. So there's construction, then
There's
this,
fencing.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just that. So here's 53,000. So I just wondered what this.
Yeah,
construction support-
no, that's a great question. So let me look into that and I'll find out for you.
That's all I have.
I love it. Great questions. What is this?
Anna, did you have any questions?
Yes, so I wanted to find out similarly to some of the questions that Linda just asked. The one I had a question about was the inflation adjustment on the cost estimate. Because if the project is going to be done in less than 1 year, it seems to me that the inflation shouldn't really kick in, in this time frame. So that would be one that I'd push back on. As to
Okay.
why they need that on, because they already have a contingency on there and they already have their own profit margin built into that as well. So
I don't have a definitive answer for that, but I can tell you in a different topic area, trying to purchase a van is a good example. So we've been trying to replace it and it went from being 37,000 all the way up to 60 just in this last year and a half. So I think that's the reason, is that concern of, they don't want to give you an estimate that they're going to be under. You know what I mean? They want to make sure that what they're suggesting will cover what we need to do. So that's the only piece that I can think of why they would increase that the way that they have. But again, that's something I can follow up on and find out.
Right.
Okay.
And then, just a side comment to the courts that are at the adjoining Weber Village. I definitely understand that if they are not usable at this point, but perhaps in the future, that's something that the town, whether it's the schools or Park and Rec, might want to consider in terms of talking about if there is still a high need. Perhaps those could be converted to pickleball courts, recognizing that there would need to be a long discussion about transferring ownership, if assuming the HOA even wanted that. But there is a space and location and something already there, and whether or not you can take something and renovate it rather than starting from scratch for the future. So again, just a thought.
Yeah, I do appreciate that, Anna. The big issue with it is that it's right over top of their sewer system. So there's actually sewer caps that are on the court itself. So those are things, unless we could move those courts to a different location, they still need to be able to access that. So that's not really something that we could change or amend to make that work for us,
All right. So no, that
Sorry.
was my only other question. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna. I appreciate it.
Matt or Solomon has intimate knowledge of this project.
I think I'm okay for the moment, yeah.
I have a question. Thank you. I was, the cost is 700,000.
734,000. Yep.
Excellent.
Yep.
And I'm using sort of as a benchmark, the 400 King Street,
33.
Oh, 300 King
300
Street. Yeah.
King Street basketball courts. That was a project, new construction.
Yep.
Basketball courts, and parking.
Mhm.
So it seemed like there was a lot of site work for that. I just wonder why this is, it appears to be 50% more expensive than that project, given that, given that they're both new construction, but this is on an existing site that doesn't need site work.
Right.
And parking is not part of it, so there's no curb cuts to make, there's no, I don't know,
There's,
go ahead.
So the original project with basketball courts, that was done in 2014. That's quite a long time ago, believe it or not. And again, like I had mentioned before, the interest rates for everything have just skyrocketed. After COVID, it's just been absolutely ridiculous. So that is a reality that the costs are so much, but Saul was gonna go on with talking about the stuff, so I'll let you do that.
well, I say there is, we've discussed it, but there is some reconfiguration. I mean, it's not certainly at the level of Serena King, but there is.
It's not a paved over.
No, but there's moving curbs and reconfiguring the parking lot. There is, it's in the quote, some of the breakdown of that. It's really not a lot of it. I think it is.
There's like paved paths and drives, things like that.
I guess one way of putting it as a question is, do you think these are similar in scale and complexity and benefit?
Benefit 100%. Complexity, there's another piece of this that wasn't part of the basketball courts. And that is, you have to actually prep the site in a different way than you would to do those sort of courts. And we need to do it in the right way so that it is an investment that's going to last anywhere between like 15 to 20 years, right? So we do need to make sure that that's done properly. Additionally, fencing is going to go all the way around, where before we ended up having to add little segments of fence after the fact. And fencing's really expensive. So that's something that is an added cost to it. Plus all of those pieces of, we do need to reconfigure what the parking lot there currently is going to look like. It will also change the location of where the handicap spaces need to be. So there is a lot of work in that area that specifically would need to be done. Yeah, so they're different. The need is, I would almost say, well, we have the courts now, so it's easy to say that the need's greater, but it is something that is used a lot in this town and is very popular. And again, to be able to lose those is a pretty big detriment to the town, because it is something that people use a lot.
And this affects the school department as well as the public.
Yeah.
Where the basketball court, I'm assuming not used by the school for basketball games.
Yes, yeah, you're totally right
This
on
will be
that.
probably a little bit more.
Right.
neat.
So the MIAA, which is the organization that kind of gives the rules and policies for all of the school athletics. It is required that a town have at minimum 4 courts to be able to do games and tournaments. So losing that, we really aren't able to have a competitive team, which we have for many years. So we may have to go a year without having a tennis, a boys and girls tennis team. So that, that's a sad loss of that, if that's what it comes to, but
When would they start construction?
yeah, so this, because we have this design and this idea, what we would do is if we were able to get this fund at town meeting, which would be in October, if we got that approved, we would try to do as much site prep as we possibly could prior to winter. Because it is very temperature specific, laying down the surface that we would need. So we would want to try to get that accomplished in spring, and hopefully that, we could get that completed before summer would be excellent if that's possible. Because the minimum we want to go offline is like a whole year. Yeah.
I'm thinking back on the earlier question or reference to the
Yeah.
school committee having a school budget, not having
Yeah.
any skin in the game for this. I wonder if there's precedence for this, and I'm trying to recall what happened when the track and field was built. There was a big fundraising event or effort over time
Yeah.
for the track, and I wondered what that contributed in the end to the overall cost of the track. And then who paid for the rest of it, I guess, and then school ownership. The track obviously gets a lot of use by the school.
Right.
Could you comment on it?
I can't because I started working here in 2015 and that was well prior to my time. So that isn't a topic that I really have any information on.
Didn't they have a big fund? Wasn't the track funded privately?
Believe that it was and continues to be maintained.
Hopefully we could get another update at 5.
That didn't sound like Andrew's voice. I wonder if it was the pilot.
It might be somewhere else.
Yeah.
Then we've held you on.
Sorry, yeah, it's the
for
captain.
2 hours.
His mic went off for a second.
Yeah.
Maybe Andrew.
He's on an airplane right now, so.
But he has himself muted.
I know, but I think he might have taken it off.
We don't.
He's trying.
That's wild.
But I think that was how it was. I don't think there was any. Remember they had a big committee put together and I think that's how that was funded event, actually.
Right, so it just begs the question, is there some sort of meet us in the middle kind of thing? Because we weren't partners in the track.
Mm-mm.
But that site had repeatedly came up in our discussions as you know, will you sponsor a rebuild of the ball field for baseball, new dugouts and stuff, and that never happened, or maybe that did happen, but and then the stadium, that was like off the table because it wasn't fundable through CDA.
Right.
And then the track was there and they came and spoke to us a number of times and we were amenable. So I just think there is a precedent there for it, but it's interesting that that if this is funded 100% with CPA, it where's the where are those partners or why weren't they part of this?
And I don't have an answer to. I can definitely go back and have a conversation with the school department.
And I wonder, I mean, could they, I mean, they don't have. Their budget is locked in.
Yeah.
For this fiscal year, but
Right.
you know, either make a commitment for a transfer to CPC for next year or something along those lines to rebuild the reserve fund or you know, something along those. I don't know if that's a sort of piece of this. I think would be.
In the previous arrangement, that the school department had no money in the project either.
For the track organization?
No, for
Oh,
the
sorry.
previous tennis court proposals, the school department.
That is correct. Yeah, because the original design was to be at Cooper Farm property. But yes, they would have used that site for their teams and tournaments and practices and games.
But for the sake of expediency, I mean, like you said, the school department would have to go another
It's a whole-
fiscal cycle before they could put something in their budget.
Because we're, as of July 1, we're gonna start the next fiscal year, which is then blocked out all the way to June 30th of next year. So then when we go to the budgeting process, we're looking at July 2024, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 20, yeah, yes, it's 23.
You know, I'd have to look at the calendar, yeah.
So yeah, that'd be a whole year out for them for budgeting.
And we could have them all done before that
Yeah.
happens.
And the other part is that the responsibility for the situation really does fall on the town and the senior center projects.
Mm. That's why we're having this discussion.
That's why we're having this discussion, because the senior center is tearing up the old courts and did not include that in their accounting. Of the project. So.
As far as I can tell, and this is. I need to get this straightened out with the new finance people. I think there's about 824,000
Okay,
in the recreation bucket
Okay.
right now. That includes what happened at annual town meeting.
yep, this past.
The past, yeah. Undesignated, it looks like we have about 305,000. So those would be the two buckets we could play with for this.
And then there's the other part, the LED lighting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Madam Chair, I have one more question.
Yes,
So I just remember from the past projects that we've reviewed, like the one from the Houghton building or the windows. Are we supposed to have more than one bid or estimate so that we have that to be able to assess? Because I know right now we're looking at this one estimate, but are we supposed to have more than one?
So when we go through the process, we would have to put it out to bid, and that's where we would get the multiple bids on what the companies would essentially say their cost is gonna be. So this is just, instead of just coming and saying like, I don't know how much it's gonna cost. We wanted places to be able to take a look at it and do as good of an estimate as they possibly could with where the costs were right now.
Okay, right, and I was wondering if Carolyn, whether or not, from a process perspective, if CPC is supposed to have 3 estimates, or is it okay to just have this one?
that's a good question. I guess it would depend on what the town, or because it depends on the size of the project. Whether you have to go to bid, or if you have to, I think it's $100,000 that you have to go out to bid.
I think it's moved up to 300. Yeah, yeah.
I think anything over 10,000 would require the bidding process. Can you guys hear me? The pilot was speaking a little earlier.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is that for
perfect.
bids or for quotes, Andrew?
For bids. For quotes, I'm not exactly sure. Typically, I mean, in best practice, I think in the past we've required a couple of different quotes, but I'm not exactly sure of a hard fast policy on that.
I can double check and get back to you, but I really do think that it had been increased not that long ago.
But can we? I suppose because it seems like all of the projects that I've seen where they're bidding, they're also paying money for the bid. Right, because there are some design service and an estimate. Do we?
Oh, the design, because there would have to be like a design and a quote
Yeah.
as part of that.
Essentially what places done. I don't know. I mean, I'm just wondering if we could even get a. Yeah, we're not paying more money. Can we get
Just a construction bid,
a bid? Yeah,
a bid on construction?
based on sort of the sketches that we have.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right.
And you said you were going to the PMBC, but you haven't yet.
No, because this is just that we have a design. I think the next steps for this one, we would want to make sure that the school board does actually take a vote and support it. They've talked about it at meetings and they've voiced positive support, but they have not taken an actual vote on that. So we would want to be able to follow up with that and make sure that they are okay with it because it's their property. So we would have to get their approval. Yeah. So before we did that, and once you start having some of these conversations with folks, like they want to know, do you actually have funding for this? Is this something that legitimately is gonna go through.
Bartlett Harvey has just joined us, speaking of PMBC.
And also probably talking about some, whether it's the transfer of property or a maintenance
Right.
agreement, the other operations agreements, those sorts of things. So there's a bunch of pieces that
Need to be hammered out.
need
for
to be
sure.
hammered out.
Hi, Bartlett.
Well,
We're talking tennis courts.
okay,
Is it not likely that if the cost came way under the project proposal, that the money wouldn't be spent and it would be returned?
100%.
Okay. 'cause-
That is absolutely the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the number would get us to town meeting anyway, and the same thing would apply there. There might be questions about the final cost and we wouldn't know, but it would at least guarantee that it gets it done.
Right.
Would you expect to have final cost by town meeting though?
We have time, so I think that is a potential. I just would need the hard part is like getting the guidance from finance and,
Yeah.
you know, TA's office, since we're kind of in flux of things, so, yes, I would aggressively ask that question.
So there's also, I think we have guidance from finance and FinCom and
Yeah,
about do we pay outright with the fund we have in reserve? Do we bond it at
Right.
the time? Yeah, there's a number of how you pay for it, things
Yeah.
that are still open questions.
I mean, bonding's a good option because then that's something that's not
Yeah.
going to, you know, take a lot
Yeah.
out at this moment.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a good thought for sure.
Yeah.
With a project that size, they would probably, what they have to end up doing.
Yeah.
So what we could do tonight is, you have the eligibility request, we, at least, that wanted to deem the project eligible.
Yeah.
And say, yes, we're in support and go on, but there are some questions. to get done.
Absolutely.
And this is the nice thing about having it
Yeah.
come early, that we can
Actually discuss and figure it out.
Yeah, so admittedly, one of my pet peeves, and
Yeah.
when and I've done it too, bring it in at the last second, but, especially something this big.
Yeah.
And I urge anyone who, to watch the last park commission meeting, because we did a presentation we should have had it up on the screen tonight. I
Okay.
didn't even think of it till you walked in the door.
Yeah.
And that was a good overview. I
Yeah.
think I had sent that out to the committee. So I don't know if we want to vote on the eligibility. I think if we have enough information for that piece of it anyway, so that Alicia and the park committee knows to go ahead. And maybe by our July meeting, you'd have some more information.
Yeah.
And we could, we usually don't meet in July, but I think we're gonna have to this year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving pieces for us, but
Okay,
we would definitely do that. And it's the third Wednesday, so it's not not a long, not very much
But
time.
we just scheduled a meeting for.
oh, you're right, again, we're gonna be, what's that? I just ran over from the open space,
Yeah.
we both did, from the open space and recreation committee meeting, so we came directly from there to here, so they overlap about like a half hour.
I see.
We can all start a little later.
I think I was at that meeting too. Yeah.
Were you the one that?
Just kidding, no, I got here.
Popped up? Oh, yeah.
Who wants to make that motion?
Well, can I just say something first? So on the eligibility application, that table that we always have, it's, so for this project, it says create, yes, and rehabilitate and restore, yes. I would say perhaps this is not create, because there's already courts there.
There are two courts.
We're adding
two more
Creating
in.
two.
Okay,
two
so
new
then
courts.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. So are you proposing that we just vote on eligibility and not on funding tonight? Is
Unless
that-
we want to go ahead, I don't know if there are. Oh, I should ask Bartlett, did you have any questions that you had ahead of time?
not at the moment, no.
So just about the funding, I don't know how, what?
No, I'm just clearing.
Oh, I don't know how, if there's members on this committee that you know, how serious are we about finding out if the school will do something? Whether it's contribute to the cost or do the commit to the maintenance or put money back into this account. That's kind of a big question about the funding, if this committee is concerned about that. But we're not gonna vote on funding tonight, so we could discuss it next month.
Except we want to make sure that she knows when she
Right.
goes to the school committee,
Right.
that we had that question. I mean, we could also go and you know, depending on how strongly we felt about. I mean,
On one hand, I feel pretty strongly about it. On the other hand, I feel like it's up to Park and Rec how they want to handle that. I mean, if Park and Rec uses all this money, there's not gonna be much money left for future projects. So,
unless it's bonded.
right.
I mean, it's one of those things that I would love to be able to, you know, use that and create something else, but the reality is that it hasn't been included in the budgeting for the senior center, and it really honestly is something we have to do. So sorry. Yeah, I do think that this is something that's extremely important, that we really do need to accomplish that for the community, because it has been promised, you know.
I mean, I think it is. I think it's worth a discussion with.
For sure.
The town administration and schools about what, you know, and whether it's a contribution or a transfer of the property or some, you know,
Right.
figure out some arrangement, but I mean, it's a resource that is critical to the school tennis program.
Right.
You know, I don't know, I don't have enough insight into their budget. I'm sure they're similarly pressed as
That's
everybody
not,
else is.
yeah. I don't know.
But you
But-
don't want to you don't want to have to pick up costs for them. Like, you wouldn't
What do
want
you
to
mean?
you wouldn't want to have the maintenance budget solely with Park and Rec.
We can do that. It's just, we need to be able to figure out, so that's the piece of, if it is owned still by the school, then, you know, we wouldn't be able to, we couldn't rent the courts, we couldn't, you know,
Right.
be able to do things like that. Which anytime when we do that, so like right now with the athletic fields, so there's field use fees that the youth sports pay, and that goes into a field maintenance fund. So it would be the same thing,
Oh.
any fees that came from the use of that, we would put that into a maintenance fund and pay that out.
So this would be similar to that agreement,
Mhm.
basically. Oh,
Yeah.
I see you.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't want to see you get the short shrift.
Right, so the difference in this one is, I think it would make sense to recode what that parcel is, rather than keeping it school property. I think that it should become part of the town, and, you know, like care and custody of Park Commission. Because then that way it is our responsibility to maintain and take care of that.
Do towns ever levy a user fee to the school? In that circumstance, is it possible that in the future, it might be that you could get some revenue from school by saying, you know, your practices?
Right, I mean, it's an interesting thought, it's alumni field is the opposite of that right now, so, you know, we do get charged for use of alumni field, we don't for the grass fields. So there is a possibility of that.
To make a motion.
Okay.
All right, I move that the project is eligible for CPA funding through the Community Preservation Committee, and that we would welcome a separate vote at a later date about funding.
I second that.
Right, we'll do a roll call since we are half and half here. I'm gonna start with Andrew, just in case, well, he's still on. Andrew,
Aye.
Okay, yes from Andrew, and a plane full of people.
Wild.
Anna,
Yes.
Anna's a yes, Bartlett,
Bartlett's a yes.
Mitt,
Mitt is yes.
Solomon,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes,
Carolyn is a yes, Linda?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's your blessing to go ahead.
Eligibility.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Excellent.
And I think
Okay.
you can tell there's support for the project, so, we'll definitely just get some questions answered and.
Excellent questions. So I'll be sure to definitely look into it and make sure I can get back to you guys as soon as possible.
And if
Yeah.
you need support, like at school committee meeting or with the town administrator, just let us know. and-
Okay.
And we'll.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, cool.
So number two.
Number two. All right, so this one came out of us trying to figure out what we can do about the current athletic fields. At this point in time, the high school fields are all offline, because they're putting in the leaching field for the sewer out there. And we're expecting that possibly they will come back online in fall 2024. But it depends on when they finish, right? So, yeah. So once we see the grass on there, then we can determine actually like when we'll be able to get that back. Additionally, we did lose the lease agreement with St. Anne's. So that was another 4 or 5 fields that we lost the ability to be able to use. So we really are in a super tight place of being able to have enough fields for all of the youth sports to be able to play. We're also working with Mike Lynn, the athletic director, because we're having a challenge with that too. So with the schools, one of the things they chose this upcoming year to delay the high school start by an hour. So that now pushes everything back an hour, which takes probably like anywhere between an hour to 2 hours away from the youth sports organizations on that weekly aspect. And alumni field is completely booked out. So they're not even going to be able to use that. So we're trying to figure out solutions that will be able to help us extend some of that play time. So the one that would be the most cost effective and easiest for us to do, which is something we've been wanting to do for some time, is to put LED lights onto Kerber Field. We're already going to have high school soccer and lacrosse out there in fall anyway. So to be able to extend that play once we start getting into later fall and earlier spring, it's like you gotta be off the field by 5 because it's pitch dark. So so those are the type of pieces. I mean, it's not something we don't want to go into like 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. That's not what we're looking to do. It's just to be able to count on, yeah, we can have a practice that starts at, 9 o'clock for the older kids and, they're at better body. Kind of the latest, but that we would have to figure out what that scheduling would actually be. Because I even think 9 o'clock is pretty late. But we have to figure out how to support the youth sports the best that we can. So yeah, we've come up with a quote, and the light and water department has been really awesome. And they said they will donate the time to actually dig out the channels for the conduit to be put in. So the reality is the equipment that we would need from to put up the lights and an electrician, that would cost us around $200,000. Yeah.
So what gets played there, soccer and lacrosse?
So right now, the only thing that gets played on that field is soccer. But the last few years, because we've been having these sort of pinched sessions of fields being down, or we have moved to lacrosse playing there sometimes. So yes, it would be a mix of, in the fall, field hockey for the high school. Lacrosse is a spring sport, and we would have soccer in both fall and spring.
And it's just one field, right?
It is, but we can, what's beautiful about that field is it's so large that we could, you can design or paint other smaller fields within that large field.
You have more than 2 games, 2?
Yeah,
Same
I mean, you've been out there before. No, you haven't. I thought you guys did soccer. No? Okay, sorry, not
Once.
soccer piece.
Yeah,
Okay, so when they're out there, they do have 2, like I'm thinking of the youth sports, I've been out there, and they can have games going on at the same time at different spaces, so.
I do have a couple of questions. So one is, just in full disclosure, I live on New Estate Road.
Yes,
And so I noticed in this,
you're the next people I'm coming to talk
well,
to.
that's what, like, why are you gonna contact New Estate Road? Because the lights would be so bright, or that
They wouldn't be, and that's the piece is I want everyone there to know that they wouldn't be. So one of the pictures that's in here, this was something that we presented at the Park Commission meeting. This is the reality of what they look like now. It's hard, I don't know if anybody can see that, but this side. So, you know, when you think of the old traditional lights, that it was like glaring
so it
blind.
didn't look like this?
It would not, it would look like that.
Well, that's much better, right? Yes, you should show that to people on New Estate Road.
Exactly, and that's the thing, like, the technology has changed so much, and, you know, the idea of trying to be able to keep the dark skies as best that we possibly can is something that, you know, it is important, and it is something that, you know, people have concerns about. I think where the location of the field is, and it's like, you know, sort of behind where the road goes up, I don't think any of the homes there would even see that anyway. But that is, I want them to feel good about it. I don't want them to, you know, just have this in and be like, whoa, time out. Why did you not like say anything to us? So 100%, if that's something that, you know, we've got the blessing to move forward with that, I would definitely want to reach out to that group.
So this field, if I'm correct, if you're standing in front of the, well, the back of the high school, and you're facing the leach field.
Yeah.
This field would be to the left?
Nope, not
No.
there.
No, see, where
I need to take you on a ride. I'm gonna go check these things out. So where light and water is, so there's the highway department and then the light and water, they share that complex. In the, so if we're on the road looking at the building, on the left-hand backside, there's a training center that's there. That's light and water. They use that to train to,
New England Power Association.
Oh, is that what you're talking about?
so right in front of that, there is a field that's
So
there.
that field abuts 2A, or
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
with the
that goes to air.
Road.
That's it. Okay,
that
you
you
got
got
it, yeah.
100 times.
I go by 100 times. I didn't know the name of that field. That's a big field.
It is big.
Yeah, okay, all right.
That's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would the lights look different in Alumni Field? Is Alumni Field?
Yeah.
They're the bigger or?
They were
Technology?
somewhere in between, right? So like I said, the technology has just advanced,
Even
like,
since then.
even since then, it's amazing. So yes, they would be less than that for
Okay.
sure. And I think even with alumni, I don't know if they actually went with the LEDs. I don't remember 100% if they really did, because that's a cost saving.
Mm,
It's, you know, going with the old bulbs,
Yeah.
but you're spending that much more money on electricity. So it really is worth getting this product. Yeah.
they're also nice that, I mean, we played at my daughter played at a field in Acton that had LED lights, and one of the nice things is you wait until you actually need them and then you flip them on and they're on.
Yep.
Where the old lights you had to turn on and they warmed up for a while.
Oh, that's right.
Shaker Lane Gym does that too.
And it was very much like the field stayed sort of light and playable, and that was it. Like you didn't, if you looked up the lights, they're
Yeah.
barely noticeable, very different than some of the old lights.
Right, yeah.
So I just had one other question. In the budget, when we quote, it said towards the end, I think, that that the cost could increase.
That is probably because if we keep delaying, the cost is gonna keep going.
So who would pay for that? So in other words, if the CPC approves a certain amount or up to a certain amount, what happens if it ends up being above that amount?
Great question. I don't know. Yeah. And again, this is something where we would want to be able to get a more specific, like working with a specific company to get that specific, invoice number. Because once we have the invoice, then it's like, that is the price. That's what we agree upon. So I'll follow up with them and ask that. Yeah.
So would you want us to wait, or would you want the 200?
It's kind of, I guess it's, I don't want to say that it's up to you guys because yeah, that is something. Yeah, I'd probably want to follow up with him. We have time. We're not, it's not like we're going to be able to say, oh my God, we need to do this. Like we do. Oh my God, we need to do this next month, but that's not. the reality of what's gonna happen. So,
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm comfortable doing that and following up. Absolutely. Yep.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So at Corporate Field, it supports soccer, field hockey, and lacrosse. Those are the three sports that are able to be played there.
Yeah.
Because baseball and softball need a diamond.
Right.
So how is the trickle down effect gonna, I call it trickle down effect, how is it gonna help?
Yeah.
Is it gonna help other sports?
100%. And the reason for that being is, so Whitcomb Field, which is behind the Russell Street Elementary School, it is used as everything. It is used as baseball, it is used as soccer, it is used as lacrosse, it is used as whatever the heck we can put on there. So if you're able to alleviate the use of like one of those sports even, then you're able to accommodate the other sport a little bit longer. So it would give us more hours to be able to have them play.
Because
It's
So
not
like
the
corporate
ultimate
field.
100% solution. It's not, but it would be able to give us more space that's a lot more comfortable to, the sports organizations have been great. We have a sports council, they have representatives, they meet and they talk, and honestly, like the last 2-3 years, they have been so great working with each other and saying, hey, I'll help you out here, and we can do this, and we'll figure out how to make that work. So they've been, I have to just give them up. They've been really great. So instead of really having to sort of cut the fat, if you will, this would allow them a little bit more space, and it would, instead of destroying Whitcomb, it would be able to sort of reduce the use that we have on that a little bit.
So the school is gonna practice it, presently practices at Corporate Field only because their fields are under construction.
Yeah.
So after 2024, so to speak, there's gonna be hopefully a little opening up, a little relaxing of.
Hopefully, and this is right. So one of the big concerns that I have about all of this, in 2017, we did a field use study for the town. And at that time, with those fields that we talked about, we had St. Anne's at that time, and we had the high school online. They told us we were grossly overusing our fields, and that we really did need to be able to have more availability. We did get Alumni Field, which has relieved some of that. But the reality is, soccer is a sport that's been played on grass specifically. Baseball and softball can't be, used at. They could, if we were in desperation and maybe in some sort of practice, they probably can make it work. But it really does only work for like lacrosse, football, things like that.
Just an outside question.
Yeah,
Does anything happen on the inside, the infield of the track?
it does. We
Okay.
have a very, very heavily modified girls lacrosse field. It's cut in about 30 feet because there's a hole in there that they obviously want to avoid. So we really sort of piecemealed these fields as best as we possibly can using the space that we have.
Okay.
Yeah, the discussion about Kerper Field is around its usage is I'm familiar with it just through soccer, through kids soccer.
Yeah,
But it wasn't clear how that the additional pressure wouldn't impact the field negatively.
Mhm.
And so I just wanted to understand, what its current condition is, how it could support increased use.
Yeah.
And then another question is there any exclusivity of usage to soccer for that? It was constructed, I believe, through an association, and it was again through private donations, I think. So what is the ownership, and is there any usage restriction?
yeah. So it is, the property itself is owned by the Light and Water Department. And the creation of it ultimately, yes, is supposed to be for soccer. It's the perfect, it's set up for that. However, in the past couple of years, because we have had all of these issues with being able to schedule, we have had to have some of the other fields, or sorry, other sports on this field. It is what it is, it's a space that we have. I mean, we've even thought
Is it
about.
managed by, sorry to interrupt, but is it managed by the Parks and
It
Recreation?
is, yeah. So, the park, the highway, so we collect, fees that go into a field maintenance. So we pay for paint and, any sort of extra work that needs to be done. Seed, loam, all of that stuff. And we put a lot of work into that field specifically. So the last year we've done deep tine aeration, we've done lots of splice seeding. So it's back to a beautiful, beautiful place. And it is something, when I came on in 2015, the fields were horrendous. And that is something I don't ever want to slide back into that. So, this is trying to be considerate of, there may be some additional use for that time period. However, it's better that we do that than not, because you're gonna have all those other spaces just be completely destroyed. You know what I mean? So it does.
So it's something you could monitor.
We can monitor 100%, and the Parks Highway Department has done such an amazing job. Ben is amazing, Steven is amazing. And they put so much love and care into those fields, and they are most of them are quite beautiful now, so. Yeah.
Anna, do you have any questions?
Just a similar one from last time, and that is, does the CPC need to see 3 bids on this? And then I think also I'm just thinking that the paperwork should reflect the quote, if that's what we're going to go with, the 199,425 instead of a flat 200,000. Those are my only 2 comments.
Okay, yeah, and those will
Yeah.
probably be cleared up.
Right, yeah, I think we're probably in the same position of looking at the eligibility now and coming back with
Yeah.
the funding later.
Mhm.
Yep.
Bartlett, did you have any questions or comments? No, he's all set, and I think we lost Andrew somewhere over Kansas City.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I have one more question. When I look at the quote, like Anna just said, it's 199,425. Right under that, it says sales tax, bonding, labor, and unloading of the equipment are not included. So that would be additional costs.
Mhm.
So,
So one of the things that, so sales tax, that's funny that he puts that in there because he works with government. He knows what sales tax, so that's not in there.
okay.
But the unloading of the equipment, we are working with, getting a crane company to donate time to install those. Cause you can't just like pick them up off the back of the truck every day. So that was one of the pieces that he did not include in that cost because we said we were gonna work to see if we could get that, donated.
What about labor?
Labor.
Yikes.
I mean, it's just honestly so Light and Water is gonna dig those trenches.
Okay.
So then we're only paying the electrician to run the wires, which is actually pretty easy, that
Okay.
they've said. And then at that point, it's, essentially putting in the lights and, dodge your uncle.
They got some cranes across the street.
I know they do. I know they do.
Convenient that.
Convenient that. So,
Probably don't want back frames running across your field. You need some rubber tires.
we,
Yeah, that, I think over there.
They
There's a
put-
variety of things over there, or they put
There's-
down mats and.
yeah, in the past, when we've had to do stuff like that, so they put in, there was a donated scoreboard. And you just put down giant plywood and, the machines can drive over that and it's pretty good to the fields.
Right.
Yeah.
Any further questions, comments?
And I guess just to, on the eligibility piece, we're saying create, and it's really creating field time, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm,
Well, you're creating the rights themselves.
You're creating the lights themselves,
Um,
Yeah, you're creating more usage for the,
right,
creating a longer.
availability.
Availability.
More.
I was trying to pull up stuff. I didn't do any research into eligibility, but I know that stadiums are disallowed. And this smells a little bit like stadium, given that it's lighting. That's all. So I
Yeah,
don't
we
know.
could do some research before. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way.
with stadiums, though, are you're thinking about like the actual
I think that's
stand,
the
right? The
actual,
structure for
yeah.
that, so. That's not something that would be part of this, it's just lights.
Structure, yeah, I don't know, I'll have to. Maybe. We could verify that, but I think if I saw one for lights. And the tennis courts, other towns have done tennis courts. I think it would be the same as a tennis court and a light, it's a adjunct to the stadium.
Right.
But we can get clarification on that before.
Like a 300 King, when they put the courts in, where lighting was part of that too. Cause there are lights out there.
Yeah, I'll have to look back and. So do we want to make a motion for the eligibility?
I'm just looking at the definition and the guidance from CPA, and it does talk about structures not being permitted, but not anything about.
I remember the stands, for instance, and then another specific was the turf itself, you could
Yeah.
purchase artificial.
Right.
turf.
Right, yeah.
And I think lighting would have stood out,
Hmm,
and I would have recalled it the same way.
yeah,
Are you seeing the reference to those two things there?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, so turf fields are not allowed. Structures, permanent stands,
hmm,
sports arenas, oval or horseshoe shaped with tiers of seats for spectators. Athletic fields, perhaps with small movable bleachers are clearly fine.
Interesting.
Large high school stadiums with fixed bleachers, press boxes, and similar large structures are problematic.
Great, then I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move that the project is eligible for CPA funding through the Community Preservation Committee, and that we would welcome a separate vote from the debate about funding.
I'll second that.
Thank you so much.
so we have a motion and a second, and we'll do roll call for this as well. Let's start with our remote people, Anna,
Yes, Anna is yes.
Bartlett,
Bartlett is yes.
Mitt,
Mitt is yes.
Solomon,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Carolyn is a yes, and Linda?
Yes.
Okay.
Andrew.
Oh, Andrew, I think it's Kansas. It's not Kansas anymore.
Yeah,
I just wanted to bring out one other thing that might be an additional cost from the quote.
Yeah.
Under notes, it says, there's a bullet that says standard soil conditions. If there's rock, bottomless, wet, or unsuitable soil may require additional engineering, special installation methods, and additional cost.
I think that's it.
Just thought it-
Left it on the back page.
I don't know, it's under notes.
It's
Okay,
gonna
yeah,
be wet
back
on one side. I know that site. There's a,
Okay.
there are
Yeah.
wetlands between the light department and Kirkwood Field is a swale. That's wet.
And we took a look at it and, yeah, I don't think there's gonna be anything too scary.
Good. Well, there's already been the way, there's a fence, so, well, actually, nothing too scary.
Get the post for the scoreboard. It's a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, and that went in super easily. Yeah.
okay, so I guess we have the okay to go ahead on both of those, and we'll be back in touch.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. So, yeah, great questions. Thank you. It's awesome.
Thanks, Alicia.
What time was your meeting? What time did you schedule your meeting for? Is it early again? or-
So yeah, that one will be at 5:30. The length of them is hard to tell
Yeah.
sometimes. So
If we start at 7:30, do you think? I mean,
Yeah,
you won't-
that might-
That might give you a little bit.
it'll
more
give
time.
definitely more leeway in between for sure. Yeah, I might actually be able to get some there. I had a yogurt at 3, so
Oh, no.
we're going. We got this.
Intermittent fasting.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course, intermittent
Course.
fasting. Thank you all. so
Okay,
much.
thank
I
you.
really appreciate it.
Yeah, all right.
All right. Here's your wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Next on our list are the blended funds and the 1% surcharge. Just kind of an update. Anna and I have had a couple emails with the town over the blended funds. The 437,000 that we voted in November, which was the Cooper, the Jones, and the Weber mitigation funds, were deposited directly to the Affordable Housing Trust. They didn't deposit it to CPA for us to transfer them. So I have contacted Kim Hova, who's in the accounting office, and she's been working with the new treasurer, since we have a treasurer, but we don't have a budget director yet. To hopefully it's really just an accounting thing. So, but we need them to show as revenue to CPA in order to get the blended funds. So hopefully we can get that through before books close. And I haven't heard back from her yet since we emailed her the other day.
Okay.
Close in 2 days.
Well, they probably have closing entries. Yeah, it ends,
Okay.
but they'll be closing for a couple months. I mean, I know.
Oh, really?
Alicia-
Okay.
yeah. It's.
Yeah,
it's-
I think
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think from my perspective, I mean, there were really two outstanding issues. One was, not bypassing the CPA, and making sure that those dollars can flow through properly. And then the second one is, why were the numbers different that the Affordable Housing Trust got on the Jones Meadow and Weber Village? Because that's 3,000 short on Jones Meadow and 6,000 short on Weber Village. And so if there's some accounting reason why that,
Yeah.
was different, it would just be really helpful to know that. And then, of course, the 30,000 that wasn't flowed through on Grimes Lane. So,
Yeah, there was another odd one, 30,000 for Grimes Lane. And you know what? I found an email from Alicia Benjamin a year ago from June. And she had instructed Maren Toohill to put it into the gift fund. And then this would have been November 2022 town meeting, we would have voted it into CPA, but that never happened. And then, of course, with the turnover and Alicia leaving, I overlooked it last year. So this hasn't been voted at town meeting, I don't believe. It should be sitting in the gift fund, but I haven't heard back whether that's true or not.
okay. Well, and if I can give any,
Did you get that? Was that on your list? That was on your spreadsheet you sent me, Anna. So does that mean that you have that in your fund?
so what is transferred over based off of what? So you sent an email to Kim indicating that in 2022, 350 for Cooper, 42 for Jones Meadow, and 45 for Weber Village. That totals that 437.
Yeah.
But what was given to us on the Affordable Housing Trust side was different for that Jones Meadow and Weber Village. It should have been 45 for Jones Meadow instead of 42, and then 51 for Weber Village instead of 45.
But she also reported 30,000 to you as well, right?
And 30,000
Yeah.
to, yes, correct. But that 30,000 wasn't included in the 437 figure.
Right, that was extra, but that hasn't been voted to go to CPA from town meeting. And I
Right.
don't know, because it was collected in one fiscal year, whether we can do it. If it's revenue, I'm not sure how that will work. I mean, if it goes to you, fine, and it's where it would eventually end up. It's just that we don't get that state match.
Right. And so Bartlett, I don't know if you can shed any light on this question.
I really can't. I've not been following the treasurer's office and the accountant and what they've been up to.
It didn't ring any bells with me, and then when I searched on Grimes in my vast emails, this popped up. I thought, oh, shoot, I guess I missed that one. So, again, we'll have to work with the treasurer to make sure that all this flows through correctly, because we were counting on that 437 or whatever.
Well, I'm happy to continue, working on this. So if you need any assistance, please let me know.
Okay, yeah, I'll follow up with her again tomorrow, just to make sure that we're still on top of it.
Terrific. Thank
And we
you.
also want to make sure that $200,000 from Light and Water come through as well. That's not late or anything yet, because it was just voted on, but I just want to make sure it goes through, because I think Patty was here at the time, so I'm not, actually, Kim didn't even know about these which she shouldn't have, because she's in a department we didn't work with, so.
So the 200,000 will be for 2023?
Yes,
Okay.
it would be counted as revenue this year.
Okay. And then just to let you know, another 20,000 on top of the 30 is also coming from Grimes Lane. And that was at the select board meeting from about a month ago.
We need to make sure that gets on the October special town meeting, so it gets voted into CPA.
Exactly. Yep, exactly.
Thank you for that heads up. All right, so we'll have to make sure all this gets just so much turnover. It's hard to keep track of who's in what share, so. Hopefully that gets squared away. But that was just kind of, some things that Anna had brought up, so that was good. So ongoing, it's the 1%. Solomon and I spoke with Mark Rombacher and Ryan to try to get the select board's outlook on where to go with the surcharge. I guess that, I mean, they still are on board, and I think I don't know, kind of reading between the lines. That maybe that's asking for an additional 2% was a steep ask. Although they'd like to do it, but.
Right, so I think it seems like asking for the additional 2% is a steep ask. On the other hand, Ryan looked at the revenue that was coming from the existing marijuana facilities, as well as potential revenue from upcoming marijuana facilities. And I forget off the top of my head what that estimate was, but it was still, I think. Was it? It might have gotten to 1% or close to 1%.
So would that be blended funds?
That would be
that?
blended funds, yeah. So that would be kind of a agreement going forward that we would ask for a 1% increase in the surcharge, and the town would dedicate those funds to PPA funding.
And he seemed okay with that.
I mean, it was the one source of funding that is, I guess, new-ish enough that it is not already
Spoken for.
fully spoken for. Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't know if that. That's something obviously that would be a discussion with in more depth with the select board. The other thing I think that came out as we were looking around for things is there is an agreement between our FinCom policy going back a number of years that calls out involving the CPC in the budgeting process to largely to make sure that we are maximizing the match.
That would be great.
And I think that goes, I think that fell to the wayside at some point over the last few years. But it probably is something we would need to push back to be more involved in. And that's more of I think identifying the projects in the budget that are CPC eligible, but are currently being funded out of free cash or capital funds or whatever else. And so if we have that, then you can follow those through CPC and be able to get the match and not really change the budget overall.
Saul, I have a question. You did a calculation of the impact of the 3%. And I was wondering if the $100,000 that's deducted from the assessed value for the calculation purposes, is that number legislated anywhere? Would there be any benefit to talking to the selectmen or FinCom about increasing that number to 200,000 at the same time that we increased from 1% to 2% or 3%? Because that would make it more progressive and get more people at the low end of the economic scale out of contributing.
So I think there's two elements. Yes, that maximum is actually written into the CPA legislation. So we can't go any higher than that. But I think the one thing that we have discovered in this as we've gone through this discussion, is that there are very likely large numbers of people in town who are eligible to be exempt from the CPA surcharge that are not taking that exemption. Just based on so to your point about it being more progressive, if that was broadly shared and people were understood, now it has to be applied for every year. It obviously has some degree of paperwork hassle.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know how much of paperwork hassle it is, but the eligibility requirements are, I mean, that's separate from, so that the eligibility requirements are income based, not property based. So, whereas the 100,000 is property based. So it's kind of a different direction. So if you have a very expensive piece of property and no income, you'd still be exempt. So, and that kind of works out. If you have income and an expensive piece of property, then you're going to get charged. So I think that, and the other piece, I guess, is that it's a bit of a balancing act in terms of total revenue, but if more people took the exemptions, the total dollar figure that we need to get to the 3% would be lower. Right, because the number of eligible payments, I think, ends up being lower.
What we would collect would be low.
We would collect less, but we would also need to transfer less into a blended fund to hit 3% and get max. That's it. Yeah.
I know the assessor mentioned that there was a number of inquiries after Bartlett, after you went to the Council on Aging. It is a lot of paperwork, and it's, you have to give your income and all, but if someone wants to do it, the vehicle is there. And I think the new figures have just come out. I just got an email. I'll send those out. So they've done a cost adjustment living, probably. Cost of living adjustment.
But yeah, I mean, I think, when we looked at it before, a household of, I'm not even going to quote them because I've forgotten what they were.
Yeah, but
it's, for a family of four, under 60, it was, I want to say 130,000 or so.
Yeah, and I think for a single person, it was like 80,000.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So if you're on Social Security, chances are you're not going to hit that.
Right. So that's an education piece, I think, of as we go forward, saying, yes, we're raising this, but be aware that if you're in these circumstances, you can exempt out.
I'd be interested in trying to think ahead to how it might change our spending policy. That if we tripled our budget, would we annually still vote the percentages that we currently do? That's a good hypothetical question to sort of sit with and think about, because if we did, it would just mean it would be easy to say we still heavily favor open space because it's expensive and the roots of community preservation are in sort of a green sort of look. And then the other things we varied with And we haven't really favored any one group other than, say, open space. Recreation came on board historically, 5 or 10 years, started knocking on the door, but then CPA very conveniently amended and made recreation more frequent applicant to us for sure. And then also, given the climate that we're in right now, we're starting to see that recreation is repeatedly bold and big asks. They backed off of a couple, but it's there's definitely going to be so given that sort of environment where we are, that I think town hall is aptly planning ahead and trying to trying to increase stuff so that it'll benefit. Well, certainly it'll benefit recreation. I think that's sort of where the pressure is. That's where the realistic sort of their support, if I could speculate, is that they're really frustrated that all the departments are poorly funded, and the ones that really need a lot to maintain stuff. But one like recreation, it's really hard to grow it in the way that's needed. The demands of our town certainly reflect that. I think Alicia portrayed that very well. But then we're bouncing along. It's a little bumpy. It's getting harder. But if we tripled it, it would suddenly get really, really easy for something like recreation. And so that begs the question: is there a potential grab in that suddenly we have the pressure upon us to say, well, you need to recalibrate your policy and so that more funds are released. If we started saving, say we didn't fund it's hard to sort of map it all out, but you get the gist of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So here's a possible solution. So just to say, if we didn't, I would promote that it might be smart to do something very progressive. I like the discussion the way it's going right now, that affordability in town is a concern, and that highlights one thing in terms of the tax burden that some families would feel. Highlights that beautifully. I think sort of to pull from another quarter is the idea of it would be rational to say that the new revenue source of cannabis facilities in town have the potential of growing our town budget a whole lot. And then it's not a reach, I think, to say that it could possibly be a great benefit to housing. That community housing is all about affordability, at least the way that we're trying to support it. I think most towns do that as well. So I'm just struck by that. It's a possible selling point to say that we're making a grab for the cannabis money. Let's be really transparent about it and say we want to do that. And then the types of things that, pot is for rich people to play around with. It's so expensive and it's so incredibly valuable. It's like a huge commercial win to people who set up shop, and they pay a lot of tax to the town and the state, as they should. But it's just crazy that it doesn't serve to benefit people who are in need. And I think this is an opportunity to state that with some eloquence, say that money should go here. It should go to help people. So I think that it's the kind of thing that maybe you could make an argument for, that we could grow our housing budget and sell it that way.
I'd support that.
I think there are other, we're in the midst of this open space and recreation, I think, is one piece, and then also the listening to the discussions around development in town. And one of the things that comes up repeatedly is that it is, in the long run, a cost savings for the town if land remains undeveloped.
Right.
And so I think another piece that is going to both on the mix of sort of maintaining the rural character, keeping land not developed, there's a potential for significant costly land acquisition in the future. And so that's another place that would be useful and valuable.
Agreed.
I mean, there's one property in discussion now. We know that there are others in the pipeline, or not in the pipeline, but that, if they were to decide to change use and go from what they are to residential development, it would make be something that at least a fair number of people in town would consider a significant negative. And so having that resource available, that pot available to, and I think that's, you look back at the plot of land on Spectacle Pond that Cricket Lane that came up. And at that point in time, we decided as a town that we didn't have the funds available to buy that piece of land. It was available to us. We could have bought it.
It was like only $1 million or something like that. I mean, that sounds stupid to say, but when you're talking about land, it was only $1 million.
That's another argument. We can't really buy open space land unless we have triple our budget in a sense.
Right.
So,
But it all, Jones Meadow also a little bit wasn't prime conservation. I mean, yes, it is open space, but it would have been nice to buy it, I agree.
Could have made a nice soccer field.
That was part of it too.
Yeah.
Potentially, I mean, it was a hay field at that point,
Right.
but or it could have stayed as an agricultural field.
Well, that's it. I mean, not all land we buy has to be used.
Right.
Sometimes you want it just to calm the
Yep.
calm the landscape and wildlife corridors and things like that, rather than traipse all through it. But that becomes a real nice to have, because if no one can use it, do they want it?
But again, it's for the overall town, it's less expensive to have it sit there and do nothing
Right.
than it is to put houses on.
Right,
Right.
right. And that's that's.
So
Coming to understand that it's hard for me.
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah,
no, I don't know what that looks like if you put a commercial facility on the property.
as long as that commercial facility continues to be used and not stand empty, as many of our commercial facilities.
Which is the problem.
have.
That's a whole other,
Yeah, I know, it's the economics of it all. Because who knows what society's gonna be like? I mean, who knew, 20 years ago that stores were gonna close because
Yeah,
nobody
right.
goes to the store anymore.
so,
So I think if we have a public hearing, which we should have,
Mhm.
we should go through each of the categories and say things like that, why can't we do things that we want to do now? What could we do if we had triple the money? Think of the different scenarios that could come up that we could, parcels of land, housing, what kinds of things does the housing trust envision? I always think of, Gino always, give me 1 acre of land and, but what could you do with that acre of land?
Right.
So I think we need to really come up with some really good arguments for why more money would help us in each of those categories.
So I have a couple of comments. I would like to expand on what I think it was Mitt said about the marijuana monies. I think the bottom line to it is that there still needs to be some more exploration with FinCom to understand what can and cannot be used to fund CPC. So for example, we had talked with Tyler about local aid and perhaps cell tower money. And so anything that we can do to work collaboratively with FinCom to understand those numbers better, I think will be very helpful to understand, well, if we keep pushing on getting funds that already exist, well, where are they going to come from? Right? Like the marijuana, like local aid, like cell tower money. So that's one thing. Another one is, I know that throughout our conversations tonight, we've heard some terms about wealthier residents. So during the time this spring that we were talking about this, I inquired with Ryan whether or not the residents could actually provide gifts or contributions, and that could be used to get matching funds from CPC. And he found that yes, gifts can be accepted from private sources. And so if there are residents, similar to the library when they had their big fundraising goal, if CPC wanted to use that as another alternative means of raising funds, it could do that. And so being able to get money from individuals who, hey, this year was a great year, I'm going to contribute X amount to CPC and it's going to get matched by the state. So there are really positive reasons for seeking out additional dollars from people who want to give. So that's the second thing I wanted to just mention. And then the third is, in looking at past notes, I saw that Chase Mack from CPA, I think it's from CPA, he was from CPA, said that he would be available for technical assistance. So if we need anybody to run calculations based off of how any changes would affect our CPA revenue, he would be more than happy to provide that assistance. So he could be a resource to lean on so that the committee doesn't feel like it has to do all this on its own.
No, that's a good thought. They are, he's with the coalition, the Community Preservation Coalition. He works with Stuart Sagamore.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, they do all the reporting, so we could certainly get something. They're in the process of a move, but by mid-July, they should be settled.
Okay,
But
great.
yeah, we definitely, there are things that we would like. You're right, we pay dues to them for that particular reason, so.
Exactly. So using them to our benefit would be great.
It's a good idea.
And then the fourth one, in going with what you just said, Carolyn, a little bit ago about a public meeting, I wanted to get a sense about timing again, because I'm not sure I'm really clear on that. I think it would be really helpful to be able to outline the process for folks as to what an increase would look like in terms of process, and then float the concept out there with folks even beforehand. So that would be, I guess, what you mentioned in a public meeting, because I think it would be a lot better if this could be worked out quickly this summer, to be able to float that out there with folks before actually getting it to town meeting. And that's kind of what I had a question on, is we're talking about fall town meeting, but I thought this actually went on the ballot in May of 2024. So is it both, or is it just the ballot?
No, it's both. And
Okay.
you have to have 90 days between, or 35 days between.
I forget.
So you can't do it like at May town meeting and May ballot. So we'll have to do the town meeting in, I guess it's the end of October. They're targeting for a meeting. And then we'd have to do the ballot in May to
Okay.
be starting in.
Does it start in fiscal year 25, or would it start in fiscal year 26?
If we vote in May of 2024, that's the end of fiscal year
25.
5.
Like, does it start a month later, or does it, that's what I'm not sure about.
Yeah.
Is it a month or a year in a month?
Right,
Right.
Right,
I don't know, we'd have to look at it.
yeah, I can't
Otherwise-
remember.
Although actually they don't, this is something I just discovered, that they don't, even though the fiscal year starts in July, they don't set the tax rates until November.
So,
Well,
retroactive, because
Yeah, so you have two bills, or you have two
Yeah.
bills on the
Estimated.
old, and they're estimated on the old
Yeah,
rate,
that's right.
and then
mm,
two bills in
right.
the spring on the new rate.
Yeah, 'cause
I
there
don't
was-
understand that. But it's-
There was a possibility that we could, decrease the tax rate by 1% and make it up through CPA. That was also a possibility that would be, I don't know. And, when you were talking about the coalition, I know Stuart Saganor had said that he would come out and, talk at the public meeting. They've always offered, so it might lend a little credence to have someone from the outside talking about
He's a
this
good
as well.
speaker too, so I
Mhm.
think that might help us.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I would envision, a public meeting where you could be invited in. Maybe there's different projects that could be highlighted to be able to give examples of this is what a project could be like in the future for open space. And here are all the positive attributes like Saul was talking about. Here is something for future park and rec. Again, here's all the attributes for doing that so that folks again can see why this is important. And my last point, and then I'll stop talking, is when we were at the open space meeting last week, the public forum, one of the things that I expressed in one of the small groups was that the questions were being asked of us is, when you come into Littleton and you think about the important sites in town, where would you take somebody who isn't from here? And people gave their different answers, right? And what really highlighted, or what really came out for me was, these are all the things that if they're important to us, we need to express that. This is what our culture is in Littleton, whether it's the orchard, whether it is the open vista as you're coming down Great Road and the farms. We are essentially focusing in on all of those things that are important to us as residents, and we need to put our money where our mouth is, right? So if it's important to us, we have to figure out how to fund it, because otherwise that which makes Littleton is going to go away or is going to get diminished in some way. So I think it's always important to return to that.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. You're right. Yeah, if you complain that there's no open space, you gotta be able to pay for it, so. Okay. So if town meeting is going to be the end of October, mid-September would be the close of the warrant.
Maybe, yeah.
It's even early September.
Yeah,
Right.
it's usually like six, it depends on what they mean by end of October too. I mean, that could be anywhere from the
But
18th
my
to the
recollection is
31st.
it's very close to the end of
Is it?
October.
Okay, well, that'd be fine. Oh, that's right, because he was saying not on Halloween.
Right.
Yeah, that's right,
Um,
which would be good.
But yeah, I mean, I think. And yeah, I guess that's the question. So if we're looking at. We've got essentially, July and August to have some public input. And needing to, I don't know if we need to have. Do we need to have like the actual language and have a hearing on the language?
I don't think so. I don't know.
That's
I mean, I know for the bylaws they do.
Yeah, I think we want to have that by town meeting time, but I think it would show, I don't think we need it for our initial meeting. It might show sort of respect for the process that we want to call one of our meetings listening or invitation to do things like Anna said, share benefits that people currently enjoy, have a love fest about CPC.
Yeah,
But I mean, I guess what I'm sort of wrapping around to is that. We probably would want to have. Whether it's going to be a 1% increase or 0.5% increase, whatever it is, and the language that goes with it, which is all fairly boilerplate, but still. And whatever the other plan is, whether it's the agreement of the select board to dedicate marijuana funds or other funds, or however that's going, whatever other pieces of this puzzle come together. is probably needs to all be in place late August, very early September to present. And go from there.
Well, would we want to have a public meeting in the summer, or do we wait till after September 1st? I mean, everything gets compressed into those first 2 weeks in September. Everybody does the same thing. You all say, well,
Yeah.
in the summer, nobody ever comes to anything, but
I think that's true, and it's also true that people. I'm not sure how we would get people to attend a meeting. I feel kind of at loss.
Tell them when
for-
raising their taxes, they'll show up.
Well, yeah. Yeah, there's, apart from social media, which could be a wash, I don't know how to use social media proactively. I find
well,
Facebook really boring.
Hmm.
And I don't visit those kinds of things enough, and I don't have a group that I'm in touch with. I don't read the newspaper because it doesn't exist.
right.
anymore.
I mean, that's the hard part now, but we could get it, and you know, not everybody watches LCTV, but we could put something out there. There's no good way to get word out to people anymore. The light department, I understand, most people in town don't get a light bill. They had told us that
What's that mean?
they do it online. So
Oh,
they're not getting papers, so that, you know, you're not getting a good chunk of the people. I can't remember what the percentage was, but I was surprised at how many people don't get the light bill.
Don't get
I was gonna suggest, I was gonna suggest we do a mailing, but maybe people don't read their mail.
We
I
probably
don't
do
know.
lots of drops, but there's, well, right.
I mean, yeah. Well, I do auto pay, but I still get a paper bill.
You can opt out of the paper bill.
Yeah.
I think, if you don't have to, but.
You know.
Um,
I mean, we could put something in the broadcaster, or, I mean, that only hits the senior population.
Action Unlimited.
Action Unlimited, you could put something in there. It's hard. There's so many ways to get the word out, but you can't get the word out to anyone. It's really an interesting problem that I mull over a lot.
Hmm.
But we could,
I mean, I think if you, I think a mix of those things, some social media. If we probably need to do this with the select board, so that needs to be a discussion if it's brought up.
Yeah.
I think I don't know how much word we get out.
we can only do what we can
Right.
do.
I think the Conservation Trust has definitely, when I met with them half a year ago, they were interested to help in whatever way they could.
They do
And-
periodically.
Yeah, they have a newsletter.
Good mailing.
And that's a postal patron, that goes to everyone,
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's good. Yeah.
you know, I mean, that's.
I think people actually, some people actually read that.
Yeah, because they were the impetus really behind CPA, right?
Right.
Wasn't it all the, you know. So I think we could figure out a list of things to do to get the word out. It's just, when do you have the meeting so that people will attend?
Yeah,
End of August, people back by,
that's the thing. People have to be back. Otherwise they're.
but not everyone's on vacation. It's not like Italy
Right.
where everybody's on vacation. Yeah,
School starts back early this year, so.
yeah.
Maybe right before school starts, maybe. Do it or something.
A lot of people will be back at the end of August because school starts at the very end of August. It starts before Labor Day this year.
So do it right before then, maybe.
I
So,
think that's as really as late as we can do it, because if we want to take anything from that feedback
Right.
true,
and get it into the language, like
that's a good point.
the end of the one, so I mean, I'd say but we really need to further the discussion with select boards
Yeah. Push it.
and push and figure out what the path is.
Yeah.
So I think if I understand what you're saying, like we want to know, for instance, if they're willing to commit marijuana funds to this, that would be part, we want to know that before the public meeting.
Right.
Yeah,
Or or any of the other
Yeah.
list of funds that Anna listed. Yeah, I mean, I think you want to go into the public meeting with a a plan that says, you know, we're gonna ask for this increase in the surcharge and we're going to dedicate these funds or whatever it is, and our goal is to hit this 3% because that gets us our, you know, the maximum return on our money and we, you know, and then lay out, you know, we have this land acquisition, this recreation facility, this housing project that, you know, are all dependent on moving forward.
Mhm. Sounds good.
And we can start working on that now.
And then maybe squeeze in between there some sort of outreach, like if we could get a partner like the trust to do the mailing, if we had that plan written out, they could help promote the public meeting.
Right.
Okay, great.
Find a calendar here, so. August, August, like the week of August 21st.
School starts when?
Right.
What else am I doing now? So. Oh, the 24th is.
School starts the 28th.
Oh, sorry, 28th?
Yeah.
You have to be back one day earlier.
I don't know about like the 22nd. Or 23rd, Tuesday or Wednesday.
Should we look at the select board schedule to try to,
Yeah,
or is it, how often do they meet?
they meet like every other sort of Monday. I think if they didn't do their schedule last meeting, I think they were gonna do it at the next meeting. And we could have it on a Monday evening, people. Like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of that week.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a question for them as to whether they're want to take one of their meetings for it or not. I think probably not. They
No,
should
I
have
wouldn't.
other-
But if they aren't meeting on the 21st.
Oh,
we
right,
could
gotcha.
meet.
Yeah,
Well, we'll have to look at calendars and,
But we will ask them to put us on their agenda for a check-in. Is that what you're referring to, Saul?
no, I was thinking that well, I don't know if they need to be there. I mean, we need them to be a partner for the full plan. Whether it's whatever, committing whatever funding source or, you know, being on board with the increase in the surcharge, I think. So somewhere, whether it's the informational meeting or a public hearing or something, I think probably should be with both. Because I mean, we can say whatever, but if they're, you know, they're still gonna, they still hold the main purse strings.
So it sounds like conversation with this between us and them still has to happen before the public meeting to make sure they're on board.
Right.
and I think, well, Mark Rombacher is gonna be our liaison, that's who we met with, and he seemed to be on board with the blended fund and like,
So he has to talk to the rest of the select board.
I don't know.
They're having a retreat sometime soon, but this may be a topic probably one on your.
I think the share, you know.
If that's sort of like the order of which
they
you do
agree to
things,
fund one.
is number.
Yes,
is the select
Right, so
board
that
says Bill,
they have to be on board with that
Yeah.
I'm not sure that
before the
you,
public meeting, yeah.
that I got
Or
that
do we
right.
go up
Yeah,
and
no,
down?
Yeah.
Is it,
Right, right.
is it check in with the select?
No,
board?
it's
Like have them discuss it themselves or
that I don't know. I don't know
meet
if
jointly?
right. I don't know if it's a meet jointly or
Or would it come after we write a plan? We write the plan and then we bring it to them and say, would you approve of this?
no. I think we have to. I think they have to be part of
Yeah.
the plan.
Right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's my
no, I agree.
opinion.
So maybe we should get back with Mark and tell him that we, you know, we're anticipating a late August public hearing. And then, see if they can get going, and FinCom will have to sign off on it too, especially if the blended funds are do the select board tell them what they are going to do.
So
I don't know.
that was kind of the sense that I got from Tyler. Now, I don't know that Tyler is gonna be the chair going forward, but was that, you know, their role was to implement policy that, or the goal that the select board set as best as financially reasonable.
Mhm.
And that, you know, they gave their advice in that, but not, you know, it wasn't necessarily their place to make a decision as to whether or not something could be done.
So there's been discussion of public meeting and or public hearing. Are we using the terms synonymously?
I
Or
guess yeah.
No, I don't know what the requirement is. That's what I,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. So we should find out if public
should.
hearing is required.
yeah,
If not, we would only hold a public meeting.
Right.
But if a public hearing is required, that's a different story.
Yeah.
yeah, because that requires more posting and
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
other things. Because yeah, it's like the zoning changes have to have a public hearing before you go to town.
Right.
I just don't know if this does or not.
I don't either. This is a horse of a different color. We've never done this before.
Yeah, too bad Andrew's not here, because Harvard just did it, so.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, Andrew.
All right, so we can follow up with Andrew.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be in the legislature.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll work on finding that out, and we'll work on talking to the the select board, and making sure that they can do this, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta make a decision. I mean, we could talk about this until next year, but
Right.
we've got to pick one.
Yeah, you're right. If we-
There's only like 3 scenarios, so it's not that difficult.
Go for it. 3%, but bring in, you gotta bring in,
Yeah.
you guys give a little, you guys give a little bit, and we'll spend it.
That's it.
All right, and then just think of ideas of, you know, how to educate people on what CPA is and how it can benefit us.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that, or?
Anybody, well, I'll volunteer to reach out again to the Conservation Trust,
Okay,
and see how how they might help at the outreach stage of things.
I think that
And
we
someone-
should ask them
Yeah.
to put it in their month or whatever it is, monthly. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
find out timing
Monthly, it's for their
quarterly, right?
annual.
Quarterly,
Semi-annual?
Semi-annually.
that's all? It only comes out twice a year?
Well, we should find that out, you know, will we miss it? Is it?
Well, or even just use their mailing list, would they be amenable to that? And if we could solicit a couple donations to make it happen like that.
Mhm.
I'll ask them when it might work. But it is, all the stuff is urgent, right? So I'll get in touch with them soon. With the goal. So right now there's sort of like 6 steps: meet or communicate with the select board. 2, write a plan that coalition might help at that stage. Perform outreach. That's, for example, the Conservation Trust, other people. 4th step would be hold a public meeting or a hearing. 5 would be to finalize a plan, and 6 would be to rehearse and bring the town meeting.
Sounds good.
The step 2, write a plan and getting the coalition to help. I think we should do behind the scenes.
Yeah.
As early as possible.
Yeah.
And then the other one is who's going to talk to the select board. So there's 3 things that we could do before our next meeting, which is reach out to the select board, reach out to the coalition, reach out to the Conservation Trust.
Carolyn and I can continue the discussion with the select board.
Yeah.
Through Mark and whoever else, and Ryan.
And I can write to we just got an email, which I'll forward to you guys afterwards, that the coalition is moving their offices. They're changing who they're reporting to or whatever. I read it quickly. So I think they're out of commission till about the 10th of July. but they are taking emails and things, so I can always, find out from them. And get on their schedule.
I would be willing to work on my own and with whoever on, how we want to educate people, what we might say.
This is what you need to know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because as we found out, a lot of people don't know anything about CPA. Okay. All right, that'll be good, meant to have that in the minutes, so we know what we're. By the time I walk out of here.
And, so the write-up plan, or at least the first stab at it, will be, the July meeting.
Yeah, we can, I think we'll have to have our meeting in July.
Yeah.
We often skipped it, but I think this year we'll have to bite the bullet.
Okay,
So we'll,
early July. No,
like the third week of July, which is.
I'll zoom in
that's okay.
in the wilderness. I'll be like Andrew.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So July 19th is the third Wednesday. And we discussed at 7:30 because you guys have your OSRP meeting.
Yep.
And then probably July 19th at 7:30. And then this should be about the only thing on the agenda. It's not like good.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Alicia's gonna come back.
Maybe, we'll see. We should be ready by then.
Yeah, that, I mean,
At that point, that shouldn't be too long of a discussion.
right, we could probably put that off
Mhm.
if need be. But again, we're gonna have to get. No, probably do, because again, it'd be nice to. Have that discussion, come to an agreement, and then have the warrant article at the. At an August or early September meeting,
Yeah, I would think you'd want to know that you have funding.
Right.
yeah,
We can always have, I know like the summer's such a crap time, and tons of meetings, but we could always have like a quick meeting at another time if we had to.
right,
You guys were,
but we're gonna, we're gonna have to. I don't know who, we have to have the warrant articles transfer money from, or approve expenditures from CPA, right?
yes.
So,
Yeah, and we'll have, the state match adjustment probably to go through.
so there'll be a bunch of things that we need to address for warrant articles in
Yeah,
September sometime.
yeah, okay. Okay. All right, thanks everyone for stepping through it. I sent out 3 things of minutes.
Mhm.
Do we have a minute are those good to go? I don't know if anyone had a
I
chance.
just had one comment on the minutes. And then 2 of them I had no comments, one of them I had 1 comment. Let's see,
We were old, I don't really remember.
because I just looked at them today.
Yeah, but how do you remember what we talked about?
Oh, because, no, I think it was maybe an error. I'm not sure.
The technical, right?
Here. I think this was from May 17th, when you said. Age. Oh, Anna, yeah, Anna asked as member of, I think you meant Littleton Housing Trust.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Right, so that's the only thing I saw that seemed. Yeah,
Okay.
Great. Linda, can you make a motion that the minutes for May 17th and the other 2, can you name them for me? And would they be approved?
yeah, so so what, does anyone else have comments on the minutes? Is everyone okay with, if we go ahead and approve that? All right, so, I make a motion that the minutes from May 17th, 2023. Get approved with as amended with 1 correction. And then the other 2 minutes approved as is. That's from May 20th.
March.
Oh, I'm sorry, March 20th. And what was the other one? Yeah, February 22nd.
Did you get those minutes? We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of, it's February 22nd, March 20th, and May 17th with the correction. Roll call, go to the computer first. Anna,
Yes.
Bartlett,
Bartlett, yes.
Mitt,
Yes.
Solomon.
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Carolyn is a yes, and Linda?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's good. I think there are still a couple that are missing, but we'll get those for the next meeting. Anything further before we call it a night?
When's the next meeting?
Okay.
July 19th
Okay.
at 7:30. So that the OSRP people can.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you.
All right. All in favor of the motion that we don't have yet? We have a motion to adjourn?
I think we could cut and paste if Linda wanted to move that we adjourn.
Yeah, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor? Do I have to do a roll call vote for an adjournment?
Cut and paste, you could just say, great, yay, yes.
Yeah, anyone opposed
I like
at
that.
9:17? Thank you, Anna and Bartlett for being out.
You too, Andrew, wherever you are.
And Andrew, wherever you are. All right, have a good night, everyone.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Good night.
Bye. I'm going to stop recording.